Urban heat islands affect human health, and it affects energy consumption. Those two things alone are enough to drive worldwide interest.
When we build an urban area, we're replacing the vegetated surface and also the soil surface with this impervious surface like the paving material and the building material. By doing this, we're basically warming the urban areas, and this will generate a temperature difference, and that's what we call the urban heat island.
Urban heat island effect is not just damaging the ecosystems of urban places, it's also damaging to urban residents. And it's becoming more prevalent in the context of climate change because cities are less resilient in the face of the increasing temperatures presented by climate change. Residents are increasingly vulnerable to the dangerous health effects of urban heat island effect, which according to the EPA include respiratory difficulties, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, especially in vulnerable populations like children and the elderly. There are a lot of small infrastructure changes that can be used to reduce the effects of urban heat island, one of which is planting street trees. Street trees can improve air and water quality, give indicators of care which reduce crime, and reduce stormwater runoff and noise pollution. Most importantly, when trying to reduce heat island effect, street trees lower temperatures through shading and evapotranspiration, which, according to the EPA, has been seen to reduce temperatures by 2 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit. This in turn reduces energy usage on cooling, a contributor to urban heat island effect through the associated emissions. The city of Detroit used to be known as the City of Trees because Woodward, who designed the city, made it a huge part of the city's design to line all wide boulevards with gorgeous trees, many of which happen to be elms. Those trees were decimated in the face of Dutch elm disease, and the city lost what is essentially a huge part of its infrastructure, one that is often forgotten, especially in the face of much larger and pressing infrastructure issues that Detroit is dealing with, like a simple lack of street lighting or incredibly old and outdated plumbing causing pipe bursts. Planting trees is not a #1 priority in this context, but the city has partnered with American Forestry, and they're in the process of restoring Detroit's urban forest.
While much ado is being made about the new buildings and businesses in the city of Detroit, there is another sign of revival and regrowth happening not so quietly in neighborhoods. This is the sound of progress. It's a different sound, but it's an important sound. The sound of the first wave of 10,000 new trees being planted within the borders of the city within the next 3 years.
However, the politics behind planting street trees can be very complex, because the areas of a city that lack this form of infrastructure tend to be the most marginalized, and therefore, when the city makes the decision to plant street trees, they often don't consult the residents who will be affected, because in the eyes of those doing the new planting, they know that planting the trees is a good thing. But residents of Detroit have been known to cut down or rip out a newly planted tree because they were not consulted and they don't know what the logistics of maintenance are after it has been planted. And often, in the areas of the city that are in need of more green infrastructure and generally more attention from the city government when it comes to infrastructure maintenance, residents only associate trees with negative effects caused by a lack of maintenance, like sidewalks and water pipes damaged by tree roots or phone lines destroyed by branches. Some residents even associate trees with an increase in crime because the city is composed of so many vacant lots with untamed vegetation and low visibility. Ultimately, planting street trees in order to combat urban heat island effect and increase green space in a city is important because they are incredibly beneficial to a city's local ecosystem and in turn the health of the city's residents. But it is important to consider the more nuanced politics and power dynamics involved in sustainable actions that impact infrastructure, especially in neighborhoods with marginalized residents. When enacting change for the benefit of a community, even change as seemingly small as planting a single tree, the community's immediate needs must be met and their voices must be heard, or an intended positive change could have unintended negative effects.